I just finished watching a documentary about child molesters who confess to their crimes in the hope to warn others on how to protect children. It's an old documentary. But still, in a documentary, the predators were quite straightforward, that they were selfish, that they were only concerned with their own relief, and one of them even admitted to being high with the sense of having control over someone else. And there's one thing one of the predators said in the documentary that struck me. He said that as a predator, he would go for vulnerable children that were rejected by their parents. And he even gave an example of how some parents treat their children. They don't pay much attention to their children, just want children to make things easy for them. And such children are acting vulnerable to be preyed upon. He openly said it. Now, just think about this for a moment. This predator was caught, and he confessed to his crimes, and even confessed how he was preying on children. And he was smart enough to go for the children that were not looked after by the community. Predators are smart. If a predator goes after a child of a very well-liked and praised individual, the whole community would turn on him. So they go to children who are neglected, who are not looked after properly. And that brings me to the following. Do not tell me that those men, they were all Caucasian by the way, they made a documentary only about Caucasian men that violated children. Now, of course, in all ethnicities, there are child molesters. There are also female child molesters. Let's not forget about that. But that documentary was mainly about Caucasian males. Many of them were molested themselves as children by relatives, and often many of them molested relatives also. Just think about it for a moment. Predators are telling you to pay attention to your children. Multiple of them said, listen to your children. If your children tells you someone is touching me, listen to your child. Why is it that commoners need predators to wake them up to the fact that they need to look after their children? Come on. And here's another thing. That is the type of world we live in. People want to be left alone. They don't want to be bothered. They just want to will whatever they will. And the children are harmed and molested as long as it happens behind the scenes and they are not afflicted by it. Okay, it's sad it happens. It's only when they're afflicted by the news that they become angry. Now, there are people who are angry just for the mere fact that those are children, and they are very enraged that people do such things to children. And that rage is understandable. Even though it doesn't solve anything in itself, it does motivate people to constructive action. But overall, how come sexual molestation of children is such a plague on the human species everywhere? How come this violence continues? It is because as the human species, we allow it to continue. Because we don't want to deal with our defects when it comes to human sexuality. We don't. That is what's going on. And when things get too much in the open and it afflicts public life, then we want it to stop only because we don't want to be bothered by it. Just think about it, folks. People are willing to fire you. People are willing to ghost you, or even to attack you and assault you when you don't validate their expectations by addressing them in a quote-unquote proper or polite way. They're willing to do that. But they're not willing to show the same type of rage and the same type of urgency when it comes to defending the weak and defenseless in their community. So they don't want to put effort in making sure the next generation is safe, but they do want to make effort in haunting you when you don't give in to their expectations. That's the type of creepy world we live in. Worldly people in general are control creeps. And the only way to live amongst them at peace without being assaulted over and over again is when you shut down their violence spiritually. Spiritually, you need to shut down their violence. Because remember, we believers, we are as sheep amongst wolves. Never forget that. Some of you, the only reason those wolves haven't devoured you and ruined you completely is because you walk by faith. And because you walk by faith, they cannot come close. Some of them will show you that they want to devour you in the hope that you're intimidated and they get a hold on you because they know that as long as you're not in fear, they can't do anything to you. So they want you in fear. They want you in fright so they can do whatever they want to do. That's how creepy many people are around here. Am I saying that to frighten you? No, I'm saying that for you to be realistic. As believers, we must always walk in the power of God. Always. Always. So pay attention to your environment and to those around you and those on your influence. And always walk by faith. Be at peace.